The Associated Press has just released an investigative report and a number of profiles on individuals who had lengthy pretrial jail terms where they spent a considerable amount of time in solitary confinement. One of those women was Candie Hailey, and what she went through was devastating. She was actually held in solitary confinement for 2 years, and she had a full jail sentence of 3 years prior to her trial. And in the trial, they found that she was not guilty. So Candie Hailey did a 3-year pretrial stint at Rikers Island before facing a jury on charges of attempted murder last year. She spent more than 2/3 of that time in solitary confinement and attempted suicide 8 times. She says, "I would say I've been through hell and back. My soul died, but my body is alive." She suffers from borderline character disorder and other mental ailments and was first sent to what Rikers inmates call the Bing after a fight with another inmate over shower cleaning duty. After that, she rarely left for any extended period of time. So there was one way that they would allow the inmates to get out of solitary confinement. And remember, this is pre-trial. This is before she even gets to stand in front of a jury and state her case, right? She's in solitary confinement. She's miserable. What can she do to get out of that situation? Well, you have to act like you're crazy so they can put you in another section of the jail for people who have mental issues. And this is what she would do. "I would take the feces and put it all over me. I said, if you're going to treat me like a dog, I'm going to act like one."
That was in an effort to just get the hell out of solitary confinement, even if they sent her to a mental institution.
Yes.
That's how bad solitary confinement is. So there's two parts of this story. One is, I thought we had a right to a speedy trial. I'm pretty sure that's in the Constitution. But when it comes to poor people, and not just blacks or Latinos, although in this case it happens to be that way in case of Rikers, in the prominent stories that have been featured in the news, and we'll get to some more of those in a second. But for anyone who's poor and powerless in the country, who cares? Their lives don't matter. Just let them sit in jail for 2-3 years without a trial. Imagine if it was you. I mean, somebody sitting in jail for 2-3 years without a trial? That's crazy. That's crazy. If you had any degree of power, you would scream it from the rooftops and your lawyers would get you out. Unless it is a horrific murder case. Yes, in some rare instances that does happen, okay? But in a great majority of the cases, you're not supposed to sit in jail for 2-3 years without a trial. Okay, right. That's point number one. Point number two is, solitary confinement is insane. The degree to which we use it is inhumane. It is cruel and unusual punishment. That's also against the Constitution. Look, if you put somebody in her case, 2/3 of the time was spent in solitary confinement over a 3-year period. That means 2 years, basically, over 2 years in solitary confinement. Of course they'll lose their mind, that we're social animals. If we don't have interactions with other human beings. So there's the case of Kalief Browder. He was a 16-year-old, allegedly stole a backpack. Couldn't be proven. Nonetheless, for 2 years, they had him in solitary confinement. And then at the end, they're like, oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, we don't have any evidence. You're free to go.
It's incredible.
And then he committed suicide later. I don't know if he was predisposed to suicide and predisposed to depression, which is entirely possible, or if as a 16-year-old you lose 2 years of your life with no human contact, perhaps that is what causes the depression and the suicide. Uygur Javier, also 2 years in Rikers, and 2 on house arrest, and no charges at the end. This is crazy. And the reason they do it, sorry, Anna, the reason they do it is because they don't view them as fully human, honestly. They view them as more disposable.
Yeah, that's the thing. As soon as you are charged and as soon as you're put behind bars, even before your trial begins, you're already thought of as a throwaway. You're already thought of someone who's guilty before the trial has even begun. But the part of it that drives me insane is solitary confinement is supposed to be used to put people who are the most dangerous away so they don't harm other inmates. Or let's say you are an inmate who could be harmed by others. They put you in there to protect you, right? There is no reason why someone should be put in solitary confinement for 2 years because they got into an argument or a fight with another inmate over shower cleaning duties. I remember when Chelsea Manning was being threatened with solitary confinement because he had the magazine with Caitlyn Jenner on the cover. Why is that enough to put someone in solitary confinement? It should be reserved for the most serious inmates that pose a threat to the others.
Which then leads to the issue of the vicious circle, right? So I get that obviously they've got to have discipline in there and we can't allow fights between the inmates. Everybody understands that. We understand that there has to be some consequences for that. But then you put somebody in solitary confinement. I hope the whole 2 years wasn't for that simple fight in a shower, right? No, more likely what happens is, okay, we put you in solitary confinement, and then you start to lose your mind and start acting out. Well, you're acting out. I got to keep you in solitary confinement longer. Well, now you're losing your mind a little bit more. You acted out more. Nope, sorry, you had the wrong magazine. You walked the wrong way. You showered the wrong way. By the way, for a lot of these guys, they don't let them shower for 2 weeks at a time.
Oh my God.
And they let them stay in their own filth. Like, this is not how we're supposed to treat other human beings. Now, on the other hand, you'll have cases like Ethan Couch, the teen with affluenza that was too rich to know the consequences of actions. The judge looks at him subconsciously. I don't think they meant anything horrible or malicious from it, but subconsciously thinks that he looks like my kid. That could be my kid, right? I relate to him. Even though 4 people died in that case, oh, well, he's a kid and he was drunk and all right, he's not going to get any jail time. Then they look at, whether it's Uygur Javier or Kalief Browder or Candie Hailey, and they think, doesn't look like my kid. Again, it's subconscious. I hope it's subconscious. I hope it's not like I don't like black people. I would doubt that that's what's happening in New York. Much more likely that they think this is the person that belongs in jail. And then they get into jail and then they think this is the person who belongs in solitary confinement.
Yes.
That's how they compartmentalize them. And then you treat them as less than human, and that's despicable.
I think it's definitely that and a combination of another thing. I think what ends up happening is certain people have the resources to pay their bond, right? They pay the bond and they're not sitting in jail for 3 years prior to their trial. And also, if you have certain resources, you can hire the absolute best defense attorneys to make sure that you get off scot-free. And that's exactly what happened with Ethan Couch. With, Candie Hailey, for instance, she didn't have the money to pay her bond. So what is she going to do? She's going to sit in solitary confinement for 2 years and another year in jail before her trial even begins. It's disgusting. We have a 2-tier justice system in this country. If you don't have the resources, if you don't have the money, if you're not from the right socioeconomic status, and you get accused of a crime you didn't commit, you're in a world of trouble.